Psalm 91 is one of the most powerful and comforting passages in the Bible, centered on the themes of divine protection, trust in God, and deliverance from danger. It opens with a deeply intimate image. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. This verse sets the tone for the entire psalm. It suggests not just belief in God, but a close, continuous relationship, dwelling, not visiting. The secret place symbolizes a spiritual intimacy where one finds refuge, while the shadow of the Almighty reflects safety, covering, and nearness. It is an invitation into a life of trust where God's presence is not distant but immediate and protective. The second verse moves into a personal declaration. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In Him will I trust. Here, the psalmist shifts from describing a general truth to making it personal. God is not just a refuge in theory. He is my refuge. A fortress suggests strength, defense, and security against attacks. Trust becomes a central requirement. It is not passive, but an active reliance on God's power and character. This verse emphasizes confession, speaking faith aloud as part of living under divine protection. Verses 3 and 4 expand on the types of protection God provides. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. The snare of the fowler symbolizes hidden traps, dangers that are not immediately visible, such as deception or spiritual attacks. Noisome pestilence represents deadly diseases or widespread destruction. These images show that God's protection extends to both unseen dangers and overwhelming crises. Verse 4 continues, He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. This introduces a tender, almost maternal image of God as a bird sheltering its young. It conveys warmth, care, and nurturing protection. The verse concludes with, His truth shall be thy shield and buckler, indicating that God's faithfulness and promises act as both defensive armor and protection in battle. Verses 5 and 6 address fear directly. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day. Night represents the unknown, where fears often grow, while the arrow by day suggests visible threats. The message is clear. Whether danger is hidden or obvious, fear should not dominate the believer. Verse 6 continues with, The pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. Again, both hidden and visible dangers are covered. The repetition reinforces the idea that God's protection is constant, 24 hours a day, in every circumstance. Verses 7 and 8 intensify the imagery. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. This is not a literal guarantee that nothing bad will ever happen, but a poetic expression of divine preservation even in the midst of widespread destruction. It highlights the contrast between those under God's protection and those who are not. Verse 8 adds, Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. This suggests a position of safety from which one can observe justice being carried out. Verses 9 and 10 return to the condition behind this protection. Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation, there shall no evil befall thee. The key phrase is, made the Lord, thy habitation. This reinforces the idea of dwelling, not just believing occasionally. The promise of protection is tied to a life centered in God. Neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling, echoes earlier references to pestilence, emphasizing divine covering over both the individual and their household. Verses 11 and 12 introduce angelic protection. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. This reveals that God's protection often works through unseen spiritual agents. The angels are tasked with guarding and guiding. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone, suggests protection even in small, everyday situations. It emphasizes that God's care is detailed and attentive, not just reserved for major crises. Verse 13 shifts to victory imagery. Thou shalt tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the dragon shalt thou trample under feet. Lions and serpents symbolize powerful and dangerous enemies. This verse speaks of authority and triumph, not just survival. It suggests that those who trust in God are not merely protected, they are empowered to overcome threats. Verses 14 to 16 mark a transition where God himself speaks, affirming the promises made earlier. Because he hath set his love upon me, therefore will I deliver him. Here, love for God becomes the foundation of divine intervention. I will set him on high because he hath known my name, indicates that a deep personal knowledge of God leads to elevation and security. Verse 15 continues, He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. This is a crucial clarification. God does not promise a life without trouble, but his presence within it. Deliverance is paired with companionship. The final verse concludes with a promise of fulfillment and salvation. With long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation. This reflects both physical and spiritual blessings. Long life can symbolize a full, meaningful existence, while salvation points to ultimate deliverance and eternal security. It ties together the themes of protection, relationship, and divine reward. Overall, Psalm 91 presents a powerful message about the security found in a close relationship with God. It does not deny the existence of danger, fear, or hardship, but places them in the context of divine protection and sovereignty. The psalm calls for trust, love, and intimacy with God, portraying him as both a mighty fortress and a gentle protector. It reassures the reader that those who truly dwell in God's presence can face life with confidence, knowing they are guarded, guided, and ultimately sustained.